My name is Rose, and if my life has taught me anything, it's that heartbreak rarely comes from strangers. Sometimes, the most painful stories come from the people we once held as children, people we raised, people we trusted with everything we had. I'm 70 years old now, and my husband Henry passed nearly 10 years ago. Since then, I've lived on the small farm we built together. It isn't much. A quiet piece of land, a barn, 3 acres of fields, a little orchard. But to me, it's home. The last piece of Henry I still have. My son Matthew had always been distant, busy with his life, his business, his wife, but I never expected what he would do. This story begins the morning I collapsed in the living room. I woke up to the beeping of machines. A soft voice whispered, "Mrs. Thompson, you're in Pinecrest Hospital. You fainted from dehydration." I blinked, struggling to remember what happened. The nurse smiled kindly. "You're stable now, but you'll need to stay a few days." A few days. I didn't think much of it, but I should have. Because while I lay in that white, quiet hospital bed, my son Matthew was making decisions about my farm, decisions that would shatter everything I believed about family. Matthew came that evening, his suit spotless, his shoes shining, his expression stiff. "Mom," he said, "we need to talk." I smiled weakly. "It's good to see you, dear. I was worried." He cut me off. "I talked to the doctors. They said you can't live alone anymore. The farm is too much for you." My heart sank. "Matthew, I've managed fine." "No," he said sharply. "It's time to move on. You should stay in assisted living." Assisted living? A place full of strangers, far from Henry's land. I whispered, "That's my home." Matthew sighed. "It was Dad's home, but he's gone. And the land is worth money. A lot of money." There it was. The truth. Not concern, not love. Greed. The next day, a social worker came with papers. "Matthew asked us to bring these," she said kindly. "It's permission for him to manage your property while you're recovering." I read the fine print. It wasn't temporary permission. It was full control. Signing it meant Matthew could sell the farm without my approval. My hands trembled. I'm not signing this." The social worker looked surprised but nodded. "Take your time. Don't let anyone pressure you." That night, alone in the hospital room, I cried quietly. Because deep down, I knew Matthew wouldn't give up easily. And I was right. The next morning, a real estate agent was waiting in the hallway. A tall man with bright white teeth and a shiny clipboard. "Mrs. Thompson, I told you she's ready to list the property. Congratulations. The market's hot right now." I froze. "I didn't agree to sell." He blinked. "Your son said you were mentally unwell and unable to make decisions." My chest tightened. "He said what?" The agent stepped back, startled. I pushed myself out of the wheelchair. "Take my farm off your listings, now." He stuttered something, then hurried away. I sank back into the chair, trembling. Matthew wasn't just being pushy. He was lying, manipulating, trying to take everything Henry and I worked for. And he wasn't done. Late that night, a woman I had never seen entered my room quietly. "Mrs. Thompson." "Yes?" "My name is Linda. I worked for your husband." I frowned. "My husband died a decade ago." She nodded. "I know, but I was his legal assistant. I helped him with his wills." "Wills?" "Plural." My heartbeat quickened. Henry had more than one will? She took a breath. He asked me to deliver a letter to you when the time came. I believe that time is now. She handed me a sealed envelope. Henry's handwriting. His signature. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was Henry's final message. My dearest Rose, if you're reading this, then something has happened, and Matthew is trying to take the farm. I know him, Rose. He changed over the years. He became hungry for business, money, status. I feared one day he would try to take our land from you. So I created a second will, a private will. This one leaves the farm entirely in your name, but with a clause. If Matthew ever attempts to pressure you into selling, the rights will pass to someone else, someone who will protect you. Trust this process, Rose. I love you, now and always. Henry. Tears blurred my vision. Henry knew? Henry saw this coming? And he protected me, even in death. But who does the farm go to? Who is the someone else? Linda clasped my hands. I'll explain everything. But first, you need to be discharged. Matthew stormed into the hospital room. Mom, why did that agent call me? Why are you interfering with the process? I stared at him. Because it's my home, Matthew, not yours to sell. He scoffed. You don't understand the business. The land is worth over $800,000. I whispered, and my memories? My life there? What are they worth? He didn't answer. Instead, he shoved another paper toward me. Just sign it, Mom. Why are you being so difficult? I looked at him, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see my son. I saw a stranger. No, I whispered. Matthew's eyes darkened. You'll regret this. He stormed out. I exhaled shakily. Henry's will, whatever it contained, needed to be revealed soon. Linda arranged everything. She helped discharge me quietly, helped get me into her car, helped me breathe again. Where are we going? I asked. To the lawyer Henry trusted most, and to the person he left the farm to, if Matthew ever betrayed you. My pulse fluttered. Who is it? Linda smiled softly. You'll see. The lawyer, Mr. Greenwald, was an older man with kind eyes. Mrs. Thompson, Henry loved you deeply, and he planned ahead. He never wanted you to be at Matthew's mercy. He opened a thick sealed folder. This is Henry's second will. It overrides the first if Matthew acts in bad faith. I swallowed. And he did. The lawyer nodded. By attempting to sell your property while you were hospitalized, he activated the clause. My hands shook. So, who inherits the farm? The lawyer smiled gently. Someone who's been waiting for you. He opened the office door, and a young woman stepped inside. She was around 20. Soft eyes, a familiar nose, a trembling smile. Grandma? I froze. It was Lily, my granddaughter, Matthew's daughter. But Matthew hadn't let her see me for years. He always said she was too busy, or not interested, or didn't care. But she was crying now, running toward me, falling into my arms. I didn't know, she sobbed. Dad said you didn't want visitors. He kept me away. I'm so sorry. My heart cracked open. Oh, sweetheart, none of that was true. She held my hands tightly. Grandpa visited me before he died. He told me that if anything happened to you, I should protect you. I didn't understand it then, but now I do. I looked at the lawyer. Henry left the farm to Lily? The lawyer nodded. Yes, if Matthew ever tried to sell it, all ownership transfers to Lily. She is the legal protector of the land now. My breath caught. Henry didn't just protect me, he protected our granddaughter. He connected us again. Matthew barged into the office minutes later, red with anger. Where is she? Mom, why did you leave the hospital? He froze when he saw Lily. What are you doing here? Lily stood tall. Protecting Grandma, like Grandpa wanted. Matthew laughed bitterly. You? Protect her? You're 20. The lawyer cleared his throat. Actually, she's the legal owner of the farm now. Matthew's face turned white. What? No, no! That land is mine. It was never yours, I said quietly. He turned to me. How could you do this to me, Mom? I looked at him with tears in my eyes. How could you do this to me, Matthew? He didn't answer. He only stormed out, slamming the door behind him. And just like that, the storm was over. Lily drove me home. Home. The farm. Henry's orchard. The porch where we drank tea together. She helped me to the rocking chair. Grandma, I'm here now. I won't let anyone hurt you again. For the first time in years, I felt safe, protected, loved, connected to family again. Real family. Henry had saved me. Lily had saved me. And maybe, someday, Matthew would find his way back. But for now, I looked at the sunset over our land and whispered softly, Thank you, Henry. You kept your promise.